I will call the regular meeting of the Oak Ridge City Council for August to order. Our invocation tonight will be given by Matt Hudson, Oak Ridge Police Department chaplain, and that will be followed by the Pledge of Allegiance by Dylan Hodge, Oak Ridge High School senior and a member of the Youth Advisory Board and the Traffic Safety Advisory Board. So, Matt, if you come forward and if everybody would stand, please.
Let's pray. Almighty God, we give you thanks and praise for all of your works. You are loving and good and gracious, and we thank you for creating and sustaining us. Father, we thank you for this city. We thank you for the elected officials, for the businesses, the churches, and families that make our city a wonderful place. And Father, we pray that tonight as we gather to do work, that you would be glorified in all that is done here. We ask that you would give guidance and wisdom where needed. And Father, we pray for grace for all of the things that are done tonight. Lord, we pray all this in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you. All right. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Dylan. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Mayor Pro Tem Dodson.
Here.
Councilmember Gleason. Here. Mayor Gooch.
Here.
Councilmember Hammond.
Here.
Councilmember Hensley.
Here.
Councilmember Hope. Here. Councilmember Smith.
Next item of business, Madam Clerk.
Under proclamations and public recognitions, we have a proclamation honoring the Oak Ridge High School 1958 football team.
So moved.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. And I will present this Friday afternoon. I think they're starting the festivities at 5 o'clock with a reception honoring the members of the 58 Wildcat team. And I hope as many people can will attend that. It's be a great evening. It's long overdue in terms of the recognitions that they are now receiving, not just from the state of Tennessee, but from other athletic organizations. And we're glad to be able to participate in that ceremony. Madam Clerk, are there any special reports?
No, sir.
Okay, that brings us to the consent agenda. Mr. Dodson and Mr. Hensley want to remove item B so that we can actually recognize the members of the Youth Advisory Board that are here. I'm going to remove item C because of a conflict of interest, and we'll talk about that. Is there a motion on the remaining items on the consent agenda? So moved. Moved and seconded. All those in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. You adopt. We will be back on item B, which is the confirmation of 16 members to the Youth Advisory Board. Madam Clerk.
So in your packet, you have a memorandum from Dave Anderson, who's the advisor to the Youth Advisory Board. And the screening panel met this year and recommended 16 students to be appointed to the Youth Advisory Board with 3 alternates. Several of them are in the audience, so if you'll permit me to read their names.
Yes.
Aurora
Why have them come forward?
Yes.
As you read their names.
You want them to come up there? Okay.
Please.
All right. Aurora Emery, Aaliyah Heron, Lyra Lee, Stella Scott, Anna Bervin, Elena Vogt, Victoria Mua, Amelia Hodge, Amelia Marcus Brock, Edie Weston, Ada Branson, Daniel Vogt, Dylan Hodge, Brian Q, Samaya Wooten, and Lily Shelton. And Dylan was just here. And we have alternates Kaya Barnes, Olivia Foy McDaniel, and Darnell Price. So we've got 2 here tonight.
Okay, and Mr. Dodson makes the motion to confirm and seconded by Mr. Hensley. Mr. Dodson, you have anything you'd like to say?
I'd just like to start by recognizing our Youth Advisory Board and the members that are with us tonight. The Youth Advisory Board does an excellent job representing the youth at Oak Ridge High School and actually the middle school. And a little known fact, the School Resource Officer program was actually put forth with expanding that program several years back by the survey that was done by our Youth Advisory Board. So we have them to thank for the safety in our schools and everything that they do to help us make those decisions about how we can keep young people in the city of Oak Ridge. So I really appreciate all you're doing.
Mr. Hensley, you have any comments?
Oh, yeah. I looked at every resume, and I am very impressed. And I think that, you know, looking through there, I wish I could have had grade point averages like that in high school. But thank you very much for your willingness to work with the city, and I think the future's in good hands.
Any other member wishing to make comments? Thank you for your service. Appreciate it. Okay. All those in favor of confirmation of these appointments indicate by saying aye. Aye. And there are no opposed. Ladies, thank you very much, not only for being here, but for your service. And tell your classmates we said the same thing to them. Thank you. All right. The next item is item C. Madam Clerk.
A resolution amending the agreement with Aid to Distressed Families of Appalachian Counties Incorporated, ADFAC, for administration of the city's social services policy to allow the use of additional budgeted funds.
I moved in second. I wanted to needed to take that off the consent calendar because Mr. Dotson is president of the ADFAC board, and obviously he is recusing himself on this item of business. There's nothing at all controversial about this, but just so we're complying with all of our regulations and things that we need to do. Is there any discussion on this item? Seeing none, all those in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? There are none. And of course, I'm glad that Ms. Smith thought about adding the additional money to the budget. And ADVAC is just an incredibly valuable organization and has been to our community for many, many years. And so, as I say, their work is on the side of the angels, and we certainly appreciate it. All right. Next item of business, Madam Clerk.
Under public hearings and first reading of ordinances, you have an ordinance to amend ordinance number 2, titled the zoning ordinance of the City of Oak Ridge, Tennessee, by amending the zoning map, which is made a part of the ordinance, by changing the zoning district of 1009 Commerce Park Drive, Anderson County Control Map 106G, Group B, parcel 026.00, containing approximately 9.43 acres, from IND2 Industrial to O2 Office, and the public hearing will be held on second reading.
Second reading, so we'll do that. We'll do that in September.
Yes, sir.
Move to approve.
Moved and seconded. Mr. Blazes.
Thank you, Mayor.
And then I'll
Council.
have some comments when you finish.
Very good. This is first reading of a rezoning request for a building in Commerce Park, currently zoned IND2, like most of that development is, with a rezoning request to O2 for the purpose of including a daycare that has been promoted primarily for employees of Oak Ridge National Laboratory, but open to others based on availability.
You finished?
I'm happy to answer questions.
Okay.
I'm sorry, sir.
All right. I just want to say that I'm excited about this project, and I know we're just doing the taking up the zoning amendment tonight, but Jeff Smith, the director of Oak Ridge National Laboratory, came to see me back in March to talk about this project, and I think it's a very exciting project and one that will benefit not only the employees of ORNL but the city. So, Mr. Hensley.
Yeah, I think it's in an ideal location, too, for employees of the lab, and I did get a call from Mark Harvey. He wanted to know if he thought there'd be any trouble with this, and I said, well, I didn't think so. I couldn't speak for the rest of council, but I thought it was a good idea.
Yes, I failed to say, Mr. Mayor, that not only is the staff recommended in favor, but the Planning Commission approved this unanimously.
Unanimously. All right. Are there any other comments or questions on this particular matter? Ms. Smith.
Yeah, I'd just like to comment. I've having worked at ORNL for many, many years, I know that there's always been a desire for childcare, and employees were told that it would never happen, basically. Of course, it's still not on site, which is what people really wanted, but it's a significant step forward. So I'm delighted to see that something is finally happening for something that's a longstanding need. I did have concern when I first saw this about the issue of putting childcare in an area that otherwise was going to be surrounded by industry. But I'm satisfied that this location is basically one that is, it will be an office location. It's not close to industries where there could be risks or a potential for a child care facility to restrict the activity of an industrial operation. So I'm pleased with this plan.
We felt the same way, given the kind of low density of that development and the fact that a great deal of it is strictly office, anyway, that there was not in any unsafe condition.
Thanks.
Mr. Hammond?
Just wanted to acknowledge again with all the other comments that have been made that I'm really excited about this as well. I really think, and I applaud the innovative step towards meeting the needs of today's workforce. I think companies and industries have to take some different approaches to meet the needs of the workforce, and this is certainly representative of that kind of step. So I was excited to see not just the project in and of itself, but what it really represents with regards to the people that we want to bring to the area.
All right, the motion is to approve, and we will be on the board. Ayes 7, no nays, and it is approved on first reading. Thank you, Mr. Blasey. Mr. Harvey, thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. We'll see you next month. Next item of business, Madam Clerk.
Okay, we have no final adoption of ordinances, so we'll be on resolutions. The first item is a resolution delegating to the Industrial Development Board of the City of Oak Ridge the authority to negotiate and accept payments in lieu of ad valorem tax with respect to a certain project in Oak Ridge, Tennessee, and finding that such payments are deemed to be in furtherance of the public purposes of the board as defined in Tennessee Code Annotated Section 7-53-305.
Move for approval.
Moved and seconded. Ms. Rackard?
So this item was on your agenda previously, so we've brought it back with the developers here to answer any questions that you have. But this is a request for an extended stay hotel to be located behind the Books A Million properties. The request for the pilot falls outside of the pilot policy that has been adopted solely because it is a hotel, and hotels are no longer included in the pilot policy. So I believe the request is for a 10-year abatement, 10-year period, 33% abatement, and Mr. Patel is present, and so is David Wilson, chair of the IDB.
Okay. Let's do this. Mr. Wilson, you have any comments?
I need to come up there.
Yes, sir. If you have comments.
You may not remember this, but the last time I was playing golf, I showed up in short pants and you called on me. And here I am again.
Okay.
And I apologize to this august body. Anyhow, we've dealt with Mr. Patel. Of course, he came in and he has purchased a piece of property that is, let's say, challenging. To build an extended stay hotel. And had this been a year ago, the IDB would have approved it because it was in our pilot package. But it got taken out, so this time it had to come before City Council for your all's concurrence that this project can go forward. We try to do as much due diligence as we can whenever we offer pilots, and in this case, and I'm almost positive that the City Council gets information on hotels, motels regularly, and if you look at your chart, you'll find out that as of this year, I think we're averaging about 68 to 70% occupancy on our hotel motel, and that includes the extended stay. So it appears that there is room for some additional rooms. So we are supportive of it. The acting city manager and I have met with Mr. Patel. He's experienced. He has these projects not just local, but in other parts of the country. He's experienced, and he's taken a pretty good risk. But I think that the city of Oak Ridge could use this. And I know, and I must apologize, I was not here when it came up for the first reading, and Mr. Patel, after we contacted him, apologized because he was out of town, out of state, and he was at another project and just could not get back in time. And I think it did not bode well with the city council when neither of us were here.
Well, it wasn't only that, Mr. Wilson. Excuse me, I'm going to interject here. It had not been even discussed at Budget and Finance Committee. And so as mayor, I will always oppose any effort to bring a item, particularly a financial item, to this council that has not been vetted by our Budget and Finance Committee. That's why it's adopted. That's why I appoint them. And so I'm not directing that at you, but just so everybody understands, don't try to go around the process. You know, it's there, and we stick to it. And I have great confidence in the chair and the other members of the committee. So it wasn't because you weren't here, or he wasn't here, or the man in the moon wasn't here. It was the process. So now we can talk about the substance. Excuse me, go ahead, I interrupted you.
Anyhow, the acting city manager and I met with Mr. Patel. He answered all of our questions. He presented his program. We look at it as though it will be a great asset to the city of Oak Ridge. It appears that there is need for additional rooms, and I think I got some feedback that Mr. Hensley had a comment about one-night stays, and it is. You can stay one night or you can stay 50 nights. And were there any other questions that I or Mr. Patel can answer?
Ms. Smith, do you have comments, questions?
There were multiple concerns in our discussion, and I see Mr. Gleason nodding. I guess, you know, maybe the first question to ask is, given that there is apparently a business demand for this kind of facility, and we've demonstrated that we have others located in the area and they're doing well, we don't see a need to subsidize this facility with property tax abatement. It looks like a good project. If it's a good business plan, we shouldn't need to ask the residents of Oak Ridge to give up some of the taxes they would receive otherwise in order to support this. Mr. Gleason, did you want to continue on that point?
Yes, ma'am. I appreciate it. First, I served under Mr. Wilson. He's a fantastic IDB chair, and he's doing his job. The challenge I ran into with this was the job creation and the compensation for the employees. It's sort of the first litmus test to go through. We looked at it, and we haven't seen your matrix, but we looked at it, and the understanding at that point was that there would be no employment that would rise above the level necessary for qualification in the IDB. So that was the first challenge that we took with it. The second was obviously the business case analysis. I think it's a great project. I agree with everything you had to say. I think we could use it, and I think it would do very well here. But I don't think it gets there.
Let me just say, interject that all of the projects, as Mr. Gleason has said, does not just necessarily, the impetus is not on creation of jobs. That's always the thing we look at. We're dealing with companies right now that are going to bring 400, 500, 600 jobs to the city of Oak Ridge, and that is of great concern. But as we know, motel hotels don't necessarily create jobs. They do create sales tax, and they do create property taxes, which can be identified as a great asset to the city of Oak Ridge. And I'm not a motel hotel expert, But if there's a need, and they do generate income for the city of Oak Ridge, and it's on a challenging piece of property, I think it's well worth the city of Oak Ridge to approve this project.
An additional concern that I had regarding this proposal was the justification of its being on a challenging piece of property. Recognize that it's an odd shape, or it is a difficult location, but one of the principal aspects of the difficult that was presented to us is it's in a floodplain. Essentially, the entire property is in a floodplain. It's very close to the East Fork Poplar Creek. So there's, if the creek overflows, there's very little buffer between the existing creek and the footprint for this building. And I don't think that it's in the interests of the citizens of our community to assist an investor in developing on a difficult property where there are some potential future risks that the property owner will have to absorb. We're basically investing in this project, and that doesn't seem to me to bode well for the nature of the investment. So that's an additional concern that I still have, that yes, it is a difficult site, but it's a difficult site for good reason.
Mr. Hensley, and what I want to do is get comments from council, and I certainly want to give Mr. Patel an opportunity to address council.
Yes.
So are there any other questions or comments for Mr. Wilson? Mr.
Well,
Hensley?
I want to address something he said there.
Go ahead. All right.
You talked about how we might benefit from taxes, and this is very counter to what Ms. Smith said. The city currently gets $2,199 annually from the property. Assuming that the hotel costs assessed at costs $5.5 million, the city would receive $34,050 annually, and that's with the 33% discount. And the county would receive $57,200 annually, which a great portion of that goes back to the schools. So to me, it's the citizens of Oak Ridge investing in a good investment, in my opinion. And I think it's a no-brainer. And when you talk about a floodplain, you start looking at the buildings that are in the floodplain. The old, what is it? I guess it's the hobby store is in the floodplain. There are several buildings in the floodplain, including the new Verizon building. And it was just well engineered to get above the water. So I think you're talking about doing the engineer's job for them. I think the engineers will do a good job of putting whatever they're going to do there.
All right. Mr. Hammond?
Sure, and I think along the lines with the idea of this being a challenging piece of property, and that's why we're offering the pilot, is this, and correct me if I'm wrong, but are we incentivizing development of a challenging property by using the pilot? Is that the thought? Because when I think of pilots, and I could be wrong again, I haven't been doing this for the longest, but pilots being used and to incentivize companies to come to the area, so to speak. And so is the basis of this pilot the challenging property, which is the floodplain is the primary challenge, and the shape? Can you touch on, are we discounting the property using a pilot, I guess?
I think a good answer to that question is there are many facets that enter into a pilot. Some are to incentivize companies to come here. Some are also to help companies that are locating here to start their businesses and help their cash flows the first several years or 5 years or whatever that is.
Okay.
And this one, part of that property added into it. It was not the primary, it was just part of the puzzle that we try to put together when we consider offering a pilot program.
Sure.
Now, I've got 2 more pilots coming down the road, and they're going to be, somebody said they're going to knock your socks off, simply because we're talking about $300 and $400 and $500 million of capital infusion into the city of Oak Ridge. Mm-hmm. This is not that company, but it is something that this city may very well need. When you look around, and we look at this stuff, When Triso X and Connectrix starts building, they're going to have a lot of people coming to town temporarily, and they probably won't rent apartments, they won't buy a house, but they will stay in the extended stay properties. We already have 2 of them in town now. This will make the 3rd. And there's no reason to not believe that this one will not be successful.
Right, and I don't disagree with you in that sense. I think it's a great opportunity, but I do want to make sure at least I ask questions. The other thing, my understanding, I know we had the Budget and Finance Committee several weeks ago now, and my understanding was that when we raised our questions, that those questions would be addressed between that meeting and tonight, so that we didn't have to sit here and in some minimum amount of time kind of make a significant decision. I know I was supposed to get a personal phone call to kind of talk through some of my questions, because we didn't deem it would be fair to ask the developer to answer the questions I had publicly, which is why I'm not asking all of the questions that I do have. And so I still think, while I fully support the project, I'm still unsure of why these questions in this conversation has not occurred before now, because it puts us at a disadvantage. And that was why we said we wanted to have this conversation before tonight. So that's part of my concern as well.
Mr. Hensley,
One last comment is that the Holiday Inn and the Hampton Inn are both in the floodplain.
All right. Any more questions for Mr. Wilson before I call up Mr. Patel? Thank you, Mr. Wilson.
Thank you.
Mr. Patel? Good evening, sir, and if you would give us your name and address, please.
Amit Patel, 10323 Clover Ridge Drain, Knoxville, Tennessee, 37931.
Okay. And so why don't we start with this? I mean, you've heard the concerns raised about the building in the floodplain. So why don't you start with that?
It's not whole property in the flood zone. It's just the side of the East Creek. And we had 65-foot buffers going in there for the creek side. So this buffer is coming 65 feet from the creek. That levels up the water, basically. That's been designed on the plans, and we submitted to we send the link as well. I don't know if they're presenting here or not.
That material has not been distributed to the council.
Yeah, I've been submitted that 2 weeks ago.
The map that I saw showed that essentially the entire property was in the floodplain. The floodway, which is the part where water flows quickly that you're not supposed to occupy, was close to the creek. But the rest of the property was also within the 100-year floodplain, according to the maps that we saw.
I think it was 100 years and 500 years.
I don't recall that 500-year was even on the map that we saw. It's the flood zone.
I've got the map.
Okay. Other questions you want to
No,
put to him? Okay, all right. All right. Mr. Hammond? I mean, do you prefer, let me
I
ask
don't
you.
have any questions, but I'm just going to be honest, and I fully support the project, but I feel like I'm being forced into a quick decision without the opportunity of, apparently there's packets and stuff we may or may not have seen and received. I still have my thoughts about, and I fully agree with the pilot and all of the things that go into it. I would have preferred to have had an offline conversation about, hey, help me understand what are some of the things that weighted a little bit more than others on this opportunity. I fully support it. I really don't want you to think that I don't, but as the mayor alluded earlier, there's a process, and part of that process was that it would go to the Budget and Finance Committee. It did go to the Budget and Finance Committee. The Budget and Finance Committee had questions. And so for those questions to be unresolved and we come back in here, it's difficult for me to support by way of a vote tonight, even though I fully support the project, and I hope that makes sense.
Mr. Hope?
I have a question to Budget and Finance Committee. Do we need to table this again? If
Not
you'll
table it, but defer it.
defer this again so that we can get the answers we need? Because without the confidence of the Budget and Finance Committee, I don't think I can move forward here.
Yeah, we could defer it again if that,
So, if you
that
want to
doesn't.
make a motion to defer.
Okay, I move to defer to the next meeting with the expectation that we'll have questions answered before that meeting, rather than waiting for the meeting to find out what we're asking.
All right, I'll second that motion, but let's make every effort to have the Budget and Finance Committee meeting. I mean, we have the regular meetings, but that perhaps Mr. Patel or his representatives can appear at the Budget and Finance Committee. So again, we're not having to go through the question and answer here.
And that may work. An alternative would be to bring it to a work session of the council too, but for the full council to discuss it, so that we're not discussing it in this public meeting.
Okay, and I will tell you that I own currently 8 hotels in Knoxville, Cedar Bluff, Lovell Road. There is a lot of revenue is going out of Oak Ridge City. People staying, construction workers at our hotel currently in Knoxville, Tennessee, Knox County and city. So there is a lot of opportunities for city to get the occupancy tax and city tax and all those stuff too.
I got a real quick question, and it's just, as far as you understand, know, would our delay or defer and the opportunity for us to kind of talk about it and follow the process, does that have any type of adverse impact on the timeline that you all have established that you're aware of? I want to be fair and understand what impacts what I'm asking and what we're asking may have on what you have going.
Yeah, we have all the information, whatever you need.
Okay, excellent.
Ready to go.
So you're good? Okay,
Yeah,
thank you.
Because I think we had already submitted the project to City of Oak Ridge for site plan review coming in next week or after that week.
Okay.
We had already requested it, so.
Excellent.
Mr. Gleason, do you have any?
Yeah, do you have pilot programs on those facilities in Knox County?
No.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Dodson?
Yeah, I guess this question is probably for staff. Mr. Suggs, is the city of Oak Ridge recommending approval of this resolution?
Mr. Dodson, the interim city manager reviewed this application as a commercial installation because at the time it was reviewed, it was believed that a commercial application was the most appropriate. Under the guidelines for a commercial application and considering the challenging nature of the lot, which includes not only its floodplain status but also numerous utility easement complications, which are part of it as long as the location problems, the result for a commercial analysis showed the abatement, which is what was recommended. When we went forward with that abatement, we found that the couple things had to happen. Number one, the state law had changed with regard to how hotels were characterized. And number two, as Mr. Wilson pointed out, we found that there was no definitive statement in the pilot that a hotel was to be considered commercial. So we felt like at that point we were to bring that to you. I can tell you that if you consider this a commercial installation and you look at the matrix which was adopted by council, that it is my opinion that the abatement which is recommended is appropriate under that matrix. I can also tell you that the state law and the lack of the word motel, hotel in our pilot complicates that and brings it to you. I feel like it meets those qualifications. But I understand that when we presented it to the Budget and Finance Committee, there were questions raised. I will say that the contacts were passed on to at least were attempted to be passed on so that personal contacts could be made to answer questions. The request was to put it back on the agenda for tonight, and Mr. Patel agreed to be here.
All right, so the motion before us now is to defer until the September meeting. And any other questions? All those in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? No. All right, so let's go to the board. Just to be sure, yes, and the motion is to defer the delegation of authority to the Industrial Development Board to negotiate and accept payments and low taxes. The motion is to defer. Yes. Ayes 5, 2 nays. The motion to defer is approved. And Mr. Patel, we will get you the dates, obviously, of the Budget and Finance Committee meeting, which will be between now and the next City Council meeting, which will be the second Monday in September.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for being here. Next item of business.
Okay. A resolution authorizing the police department to purchase portable radios and associated accessories and equipment from Motorola Solutions Incorporated or its authorized local vendor, utilizing the state of Tennessee contract in an amount not to exceed $1,694,579.20.
So move.
Moved and seconded. Chief Smith?
This is two grants that the council granted permission for us to apply for. The first one was for 19 portable radios. That is the one you see. It's just a little over $200,000. That was the first grant that we looked at. Later we found we also qualified for a collaborative grant partnering with the city of Oliver Springs where we could get 120 of these portables. The reason these portables are important to us is we were looking for a solution to a problem that we had communicating by radio inside our schools and inside the hospital, other large buildings like that. This seems to have solved the problem, be able to use this particular technology because it relies on, if your radio doesn't work, it moves over to cell phone technology so we can continue to communicate. And portables are about $10,000 a piece. Of the second grant, the collaborative grant, 20 of those go to Oliver Springs, but we also got 15 mobile radios for our police cars out of that grant. It allows us to have a bank of spare radios plus radios that we'll have on hand in case of a critical incident or some type of emergency.
Questions for Chief Smith? Ms. Smith?
To what extent does this replace the existing radios that we've purchased in recent years versus supplementing them?
It will replace all of our current portable radios, which we will retain. We're talking to the Tennessee Emergency Management Agency about being a communications logistics hub for them in case there is a disaster, so that we would have a place where there'd be portable radios available. We would keep those maintained and operational in case they were needed.
Sounds good. Thanks.
Any other questions by council? Any questions in the audience or comments? Anyone wishing to make comments on this item? Seeing none, we're on the board, and the motion is to approve the resolution. Ayes 7, no nays, and the resolution is approved. Thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
Next item of business, I think, is appearance of citizens. Citizens shall be permitted to address City Council about matters that are not on our formal agenda, those that have been submitted this evening. Any citizen wishing to do so shall raise your hand and proceed to the public lectern, and after recognition, state your name and your full address and the purpose of your appearance before council. Comments will be limited to 3 minutes and shall relate to matters of city business. They shall not generally result in a formal response or action tonight because in most cases neither council nor staff will be prepared to respond effectively. However, I may ask questions or direct the city manager to do so, or the city manager may be requested to work with the citizen to effect resolution of the matter. Statements that are purely political in nature will not be allowed, such as campaign speeches or announcements of candidacy for office, nor will announcements of a civic or social event that is unrelated to city business. Is anyone in the audience wishing to address council? Yes, sir. If you come forward, state your name and address, please.
Good evening. I'm Justin Snow. I'm the new president and CEO of the Rhone Alliance, 1209 North Kentucky Street in Kingston. Just wanted to come tonight to introduce myself and share a little bit of information with you guys. So if you don't care, I'm going to pass it around.
Why don't you give it to the clerk and she'll get it to us? Okay.
So what she's going to pass out, I brought an annual report tonight. Inside the annual report, on the inside cover page, shows our team. We have a relatively brand new team. They're ready to hit the ground running and make a huge impact. I've been with Alliance since 2017, VP of Economic Development, and back in November I was appointed interim president, and then this past May I was selected as the permanent president of Alliance. So take time to look at our annual report. 2022 was a very good year for us. Three things I want to point out. We've had 9 consecutive years of positive net job growth in the county, which is good. The Emergency Response Training Facility, the IDB of Roane County was responsible for the bid out, the design, construction, and now the maintenance and operation of that facility. That facility was delivered on time and under budget on October of last year. So the Industrial Development Board did a great job leading that project. And then the Jones Road site, we used to have 3 certified sites in the county. We don't have any anymore, so which is a good thing and a bad thing. But the Jones Road site sold last year to a developer who put up a 260,000 square foot spec building on the space. That went under contract back in June. So we've had a lot of positive activity in Oak Ridge, and I can tell you that at Roane Regional, the business and technology park where Hackney and Volkswagen are, we're at the cusp of selling all of our land. So we're about to announce a project probably late September, early October. Manufacturing is the biggest win in the park. It'll be close to 1,000 jobs and over $100 million investment. So stay tuned for that. Okay. The handouts also include a list of events.
You've got 30 seconds.
I'm going to be quick. Events. So I always like to show all the events that's going on in Roane County. So if somebody tells you there's nothing to do, I beg to differ. So our team wants to support and promote. So if there's anything that we can help, we're here to help. In your packet, you'll get an invitation this week for the elected officials barbecue. In Kingston, it's on September the 26th from 5 to 7. It's a great time for you guys to come out to mingle, have a picnic, and get the much-deserved recognition that you deserve. So that concludes my report, and I'll answer any questions that you got.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Okay.
Nice to meet you. Appreciate it.
Any other citizens wishing to address council? Left, right, left, going, gone. All right. Elections, appointments, announcements, and scheduling. Any comments on that? Seeing none. Requests for new business items or future briefings. Okay. City Manager's report.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We have just a couple of things to discuss really quickly. The first one, I wanted to give you an update on the Oak Ridge Housing Authority development behind the Scarborough Community Center. We had a very productive meeting Friday, a week ago, with the prominent parties in that, and we have laid a framework. We were hoping to bring that to you this month. We weren't quite ready. What we're going to do right now is the Housing Authority is developing what I think of as a term sheet, which is going to outline what they plan to build and what they're asking for the city and what they're committing to, and then the city's requirements as well, and our commitment. and we'll bring that to the city council so you can see the term sheet and what you're agreeing to, and we'll vote on that. And then after that,
After it goes to Budget and Finance.
if you, yes, sir, we can. take
Yeah,
it. Okay.
yes, sir. No,
All right.
folks, I'm not
Yes, sir,
doing
I'm
this
not.
to be, when we're talking about a substantial project like this or any others, quite frankly, that
Okay.
impact the budget, I want those items to be discussed first by our Budget and Finance Committee so that we have ample opportunity to get their thoughts and that, and action before it comes here. I just think that's the reason, one of the reasons that they're there. So I'm not trying to be difficult, but I just feel very strongly about that.
Yes, sir, we were following just so you're not to be surprised, we're following the outline that we talked about in the work session. We'll be getting that onto a term sheet, and we'll probably have to have a special meeting of Budget and Finance, but as the chairman, we can arrange that, we'll do that, and bring that to you. It is a very positive thing for the community, and we're looking forward to seeing it accomplished. I know that from talking with you, the council is as well. A couple other really small things, or not small things, quick things. I consider this really good news. As you know, the CMAQ grant, which was to help us do coordination improvements on particularly the Turnpike, was awarded years ago, and inflation has really hit that project, and we were looking at a considerable local investment just to accomplish, or cutting back the project, just to accomplish what we wanted to on that. Last week on Tuesday, the Knoxville Transportation and Planning Organization approved an additional $1.239 million to cover that cost overrun. So I've just passed on a little bit of good news for us here that there'll be a small local match to that, but it's a great news for our city to not have to come up with that funding. And then finally, the state has contacted us and confirmed, we're working on the paperwork, but they've confirmed that the city will receive $525,000 to support the school resource officers. We're working out the details. That is on the agenda for Budget and Finance tomorrow to talk about exactly how that is going to work and what the council should expect. But other than that, sir, I have nothing further.
Oh, I believe you do have one other piece of it.
Well, I will tell you that when the rest of this community was paying attention to the airport environmental assessment public meeting last Tuesday night, I frankly couldn't have cared less. I was at the hospital with my son and beautiful daughter-in-law, watching and waiting and getting to hold my grandson, who was born just about the time the meeting was kicking off. I was very excited for the grandchild, and honestly, although I was a little nervous, I knew that Kendall and our consultants and other people of staff were there, and I had a lot of faith that the meeting would go fine.
And this is your first grandchild, correct?
This is my second, that's
Second,
correct,
okay.
yes. First one for these who live really local. They live like 30 minutes from my house, and that's all right. We're excited.
Henry J. Suggs,
Henry
correct?
J. Suggs.
All right.
Thank you,
That's
sir.
good stuff.
Mr. Hammond and then Mr. Hensley.
I just want to quickly, one, congratulations, man. Two, I wanted to acknowledge your work with the Housing Authority and the Scarborough Project, and just wanted to publicly acknowledge and just let council know that you're doing a phenomenal job with that. And so we appreciate that. And the second thing, this is, I guess, a slight question. I wasn't sure about the new business items in future briefing. Maybe we could talk about it a little bit later. But I am getting a little bit of traffic, well, not a little bit, quite a bit of traffic on the swimming pool. I'm seeing sort of there's being requests out on the internet, and there's surveys and those different types of things. And I know we'd had some conversations, at least I thought, a while back. It was quite a while back about what some of the operational costs were and what some of the options were. It's there at some point, maybe touch on kind of what that timeline is, or what, because there are people saying, hey, we should do things that I didn't really think were options, to be quite frank, based on some of the operational conversations we had before. And so if there's anything, again, I know it's high level, but if there's anything that you can possibly give us in terms of some of the conversations I'm finding myself in, that would be helpful.
Let me say, and then we can get some help from the real expert here. But we are in the information gathering stage of this project still. We had a public meeting at the Scarborough Center, I guess, eight weeks ago, something like that, 6 weeks ago. And then we had some pop-up questionnaires at the outdoor pool where we asked the people who were at the pool to make comments and tell us what they thought. And then we put together a website with the help of Ms. Gray to gather more comments and show options. What we're attempting to do at this point is get a lot of opinions from the city of what they would like to see, from the citizenry of what they would like to see, the people who go to the pool, the people who've been here forever, the people, all of the city's communities. And then we're going to put that into a mixer and give it to our blender, put it in a blender and give it to our consultant, and then that will come back to us as a series of 2 or 3 options. And I do not know when those options are due.
Today was the last day for the survey. The plan is to put all that together, like he said, come up with the concept design, put a dollar figure with those concept designs. We're not going to submit or anything without letting everyone know about it first, you all especially. And that the plan is the 18th, I do believe, of September, as of right now.
So you'll be seeing the result of all these surveys and then a few concept plans that we'll be bringing back to you as soon as they're ready. Thank you. Yes, sir.
Mr. Hensley?
Yeah, just a quick question, and I don't mean any disrespect here, but what are the definitions for when something needs to go through the budget and finance knothole? I mean, I understand that it needs to be a significant project, but do we have definitions for what significant is so that every project that comes along doesn't have to get delayed and postponed?
Well, I think that's a fair comment, but I think anything that's going to impact the budget or that there's going to be a significant outlay of money in one way or the other, it is in the past it has been presented, to the Budget and Finance Committee. And so it doesn't have to pass the Budget and Finance Committee. It simply gives them the opportunity to review it, give us the value of their judgment and time, as a committee, and before it lands on, our desk for final vote.
What's the definition of significant?
I would say significant probably would be in the eyes of the beholder, particularly the city manager.
And so that's what Janice is for, kind of.
Well, and she reports to the city manager.
She's the finance director.
Right. So.
I'm just, it seems, I've seen some really good work from the Budget and Finance Committee since I got back on council, in particular during the salary discussions. But it's kind of, tonight it was kind of surprising to me.
Okay.
And I know, I certainly followed you, and I just wanted to acknowledge at least what my primary concern was, and at least in this space, just so there's clarity, and it went to the Budget Finance Committee. We didn't put it out publicly. I wasn't trying to put nobody on blast, but there were some things that were supposed to occur between that meeting and tonight that absolutely did not occur. And so that was more so the challenge of, in my belief, feeling it needed to come back, because that was left open-ended in that particular space. But I do follow the thought, and I acknowledge the concern. I wanted to make sure that there was clarity with tonight that's why that was the case. And thank you.
Mr. Dodson.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. So in regards to city manager's report, I think I concur with all of City Council that we really appreciate your weekly reports to us, and whatever we can do to encourage that when we're going through the process of hiring a new city manager, I think that's one of the best value-added things that you have done for us, Jack, keeping us in the know, and we really appreciate that. And I'm going to mention a few things that are outside of this, but I think it's important to recognize. I know Kayla Simon with ASAP of Anderson County used to come to all these meetings and sit through all of them. I'd like to acknowledge Shayla Wilson, who's the new executive director. Thank you for coming to these, and we want to encourage you to continue. And the work that you do with everybody on your youth advisory council, that's really nice. And then one of the things I wanted to do, and she won't say anything about it, but I'm just going to say this. I really appreciate our city clerk, Beth Hickman, for going out on the limb, and she was one of our dancers at the free medical clinic, and she did an excellent job, and we really appreciate you representing the city as well as you did. So thank you, Beth. Appreciate that.
Any other, just Mr. Hope? Yes, sir.
Yeah, Jack, I want to echo what Councilmember Dotson said. Weekly updates, very beneficial. I would encourage whoever takes on the permanent position, that's one thing that we would highly encourage them to continue to do. It's very good to have that information.
All right, any other business? Oh, Ms. Rackert, do you have a report? Yes, sir. Okay. One item, just looking at Mr. Blasius and reminded myself that there's a land bank meeting in the morning. What will be the process for electing the vacancy on the land bank? Charlie Jernigan. Charlie Jernigan.
Right, yeah. The chairman is resigning, of Land Bank is resigning at the end of this month. So that will be one vacancy on Land Bank. And if it is, in the past, what has happened is that would just be added into the regular routine of appointments in December. Because under the prior city manager, unless it affected a quorum, he just went ahead and did those annually in December. But if you'd like for the city to advertise that separately in advance of that and go ahead and select someone,
I think
we can do so.
I think it's important for that board to have a full membership. And so we can advertise and then perhaps have a vote in October. Is that possible?
Yes. I will speak for the city clerk's office, yes.
Yeah, that's possible, and actually, because of the vacancy on the land bank, there's also a vacancy on CVB. So because Miss Emily Jernigan is leaving the CVB board.
Absolutely.
We've also had another resignation from EQUAB in the meantime. Young man's going to college. Leaving to go to college. And then TSAB, one of the individuals that you elected at the last meeting declined to serve. So I still have that vacancy now. So, I mean, I can open all those up and we can act on those in October instead of waiting till January. Or I can just do the one or the two. I can do whatever you all's preference is.
Well, if we've got more than one, then let's do them all.
Okay.
Okay.
Yep.
And at the October meeting, if that is.
I can have them open this week and leave them open
Okay.
till the end of September.
Is everybody? Okay. All right. Thank you. Anything else to come before council? Seeing none, we're adjourned. Thank you.
You can go ahead and take her home and I'll clean up.